We are live. Hello and welcome. Welcome to Outschool Live. My name is Megan and I am on the community team at Outschool. If you are part of any of our Facebook groups or send messages through social media, myself or another member of the community team are the ones that are there to welcome you and help. And this is a series called Outschool Live. If you're not familiar with Outschool, we are an online education platform for learners ages 3 to 18, and we have learners from all around the world. We have teachers from multiple continents who come together for a really revolutionary educational experience on our platform. So, our topic for today is inspiring reluctant writers. And we'd love to know in the chat as we begin our conversation what hurdles your learner faces with writing. So before we get to the questions, hopefully we'll have some popping in the comments. We've got a hello already in there. I love it. Hello, hello. I would love to welcome Ruth Butler. Ruth is one of our writing instructors on Outschool, and I would love it if you could tell us a little bit more about yourself, Ruth, your background, how you found Outschool, and then we will be getting into some tips from Ruth today.
Okay, thank you. So I have been teaching writing for almost 25 years. And I've worked brick and mortar, I've worked homeschool, you name it, I think I've worked it. And tutoring, I've always done. And then, of course, when the pandemic hit, my tutoring became remote, but I still worked at a homeschool center in person. I always have loved writing and English and literature and creative writing. So I gravitated to that. And I found out that many students just don't know what to do, how to do it. They get frustrated. Their parents get even more frustrated. And that's my niche. So I found Outschool quite by accident. I was on Facebook a lot and I saw Outschool and I'm like, what is this Outschool? What is this? So I looked it up and I decided, okay, I'd give it a try. And I absolutely knew nothing. I mean, I'm a baby boomer. I'm not technical. I don't, but I gave it a shot. And people in the communities were very helpful to me. And I started, and here we are. So I love Outschool. It's great. And I like the fact that I can help people that I could not help where I am because I don't have access to all these people.
Mhm.
So I have people, in all states, in Europe, California, you name it. And I couldn't, get these people through just being in Pennsylvania.
It
So
would be a pretty long commute for tutoring, right?
it real would indeed. And I don't have the snacks. So that's what happened. And it just evolved. And here I am sitting with you.
I love it. Well, we're glad you found us because I'm in the Facebook community groups all the time, and you are always there to offer words of advice for people, answer questions, and our community members are so grateful for it. I see the response day in and day out. So I am thrilled you are able to join us today. So if you're just tuning in, we'd love to know what hurdles your learner faces with writing. Ruth is here to help us with some tips for inspiring reluctant writers. And if you have any Outschool questions in general, feel free to add those to the comments as well, and we will be happy to help. So, what is one tip that you can kick us off with for today, Ruth? If you have somebody who finds writing overwhelming or maybe just doesn't know where to start, what would you tell them?
Here's what I have found out. First, we have to assess, why is someone reluctant? And I have found that most students are reluctant because they have made and continue to make a lot of mistakes and they feel judged. And so, why would you want to do something when you know you can't do it very well? So, when I tutor, and I mostly tutor on Outschool, although, I do go in person and have actual classes, mistakes are fine. I explain that you can't learn without making them, and there is no judgment to making them. There's no judgment. And I teach kind of a proofing method where I say we are only looking for things. We're just looking for them. And we're going to highlight them or we're going to bold them and then we're going to do something with them. But is there judgment in all this bold? No. There's no judgment. And 90% of the time, when I put it like that and you take the judgment out and you say, okay, so what? So you make mistakes and you take that component out of the writing, the reluctance changes. I have found, and I've done a lot of people in almost 25 years, and 10% maybe it doesn't change, but 90% it does.
Hmm. That's so true. And some of that probably comes from prior experience too, where people have kind of collected these assumptions, right? When you were talking about that, I was thinking about floundering in Latin class, right? And getting kind of this mindset that I'm not good at learning a new language because of feedback that you get, right? And so giving that feedback and kind of setting that stage that there's no judgment and we're just here to learn together and grow together is a beautiful environment.
And we start small. Words make sentences, sentences make paragraphs, paragraphs make essays. We start with the sentences, and that's small enough that you can work it. And once they can get that, then we move on. So we break things into very tiny components.
I love that. We have a comment from someone, Ruth, who says that their son has autism and just dislikes writing, period. When they ask him to write, they get one or two sentences, and oftentimes they're plagiarized.
Well, he's writing something. And there is a system called IEW writing that where you actually do take a block of text, you pick out keywords and you rewrite the sentence. So although I've taught IEW and I taught it for 6 years, I use what works for a writer. For most of the tutoring I do, I don't use it, but with a lot of kids who like structure and they don't like changes and they want something solid, I might start there with someone that has autism and is struggling
Hmm.
because it's predictable.
I I wonder too, and this might be one of your future tips. So if I'm jumping ahead, you can say, calm it down, back it up, right? But I wonder too, also for, and I bring this up as a parent of neurodiverse learners, if the method of writing, right? Is it dictation? Is it typing? Is it physically writing? Kind of those thought maybe there's a change that could be made there as well, to how
Most
the
people,
information is coming out.
I tell people, if you can use a computer, use it, because writing is rewriting. There's three rules of writing to me. One is writing is simply thinking caught on a piece of paper with mechanics. All right. Now, you cannot fix what you do not have. And I can fix almost anything. So you don't want a student to go in like this. And you get a lot of people, I can't write it because it's not going to be perfect. I don't care because there's no judgment. I'm just looking at it. And then the third thing is writing is rewriting. Nobody likes that part. But if you can make your changes easily without writing, scratching, crumpling, that's frustrating because you're doing it again and again and again and again. Learn how to keyboard and type as soon as you can. And that
Mhm.
way you take a lot of the frustration out of it.
My mom was talking to my daughter yesterday about when she went to secretarial school in the 70s and it was carbon paper. And she said, it was, if you messed up, companies didn't like that because the carbon paper was expensive in the time and all of that. And my kids were sitting there listening to this whole lesson on carbon paper, like, you know.
Right out. Even when you had keyboarding, if you made the wrong stroke, you couldn't, key punch operator, they would try to fill in that hole and that would be very difficult. So now, thank goodness, you just don't have to deal with that. But teach the child as soon as possible how to use a computer.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So we've got a thank you from that parent, Ruth, who was on the fence about IEW and says, now you've really given them something to think about there. Writing is certainly rewriting and definitely can't fix what you don't have. We've got some affirmations of your thought process there. And somebody who, yes, I totally agree. How did we survive carbon paper? Right. I remember the smell of the mimeograph and getting the wet mimeograph papers, right?
And the ink all over your hands.
Our kids today have no idea.
But I do.
Um, Yes.
The other thing I want to say is you have to have acceptance and belief in your student. They want to feel that you accept them and you believe in them, even if they don't believe in themselves. And relationships are are important. Respect, relationships. Because if you can get that going and they know that you truly care about them as a person,
Mhm.
that changes things too.
Mhm.
I mean, I am in contact with, I have a lot of private students, before Outschool, and still have some private students, and they're married and they have children, and I still hear from them. Why? Because of the relationship.
Mhm. And that feels important in anything if you have a learner who's struggling in math and all of that. And the beautiful thing about Outschool when you come on, so if you're just joining us, Outschool is an online learning platform for kids ages 3 to 18, and we have group classes and tutoring and all of these different options in every subject and interest you could possibly imagine. But when you go to a teacher's profile on Outschool, many teachers have a video that's there where they can introduce themselves and talk to you about their learning philosophies and their teaching strategies and things like that. And it's so helpful to be able to get a feel for just that initial feel for who would be a good fit for your student and who you think that they have the opportunity to kind of start building that relationship with, Ruth. So that's a beautiful point.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Would you like to offer us another tip today, Ruth?
Well, I mean, as I said, when I think you also have to assess where is somebody. So everybody has a writing pattern, whether they realize it or not. And I like to get at least a paragraph if they know what a paragraph is. And I'm looking for things. I'm looking for repetition of words. I'm looking for punctuation. I'm looking for how they're starting their sentences. Do I understand what they're trying to say? Because one thing about writing, it's an art, and the only thing an artist can use is in writing are words. So vocabulary is also crucial in teaching someone how to write because what are they supposed to use? But you have to know where to start. And you can't start where you want to start. Okay, you must start where they are, and your job is to move them forward. Too many people want to start where they think the student should be, and maybe they're not there, and so it doesn't work because you're moving them somewhere they can't even go to.
That makes sense. And I think too, going back to the relationship piece, sometimes maybe there's pressure that we are behind. And so maybe parents feel pressure from society, like my child is 10 and should be writing at a certain level. And that really spills over into that dynamic as well. Um, there's somebody who says in the comments that they write for a living and they've outsourced their son's writing because it's more important to protect their relationship with their child than to teach it themselves. Yes.
Well, I have two boys, they're grown. Um, Both needed tutors in different things, and I did not tutor either of them. I got someone else to do it because usually in that case, they listen to someone else more than they listen to the parent. Now, I'm not
Mhm.
talking about homeschooling. I'm talking just tutoring in one particular subject.
Yeah, and I think so some of the interesting thing too is when people talk about homeschooling, maybe, "Oh, I could never homeschool," or "I'm thinking about homeschooling, but I'm nervous," that they feel, "Well, I'm not equipped to teach everything," right?
And
And I think none of us are, right? I mean, maybe there's that homeschool parent who's out there who's raring and ready to go, right? But most homeschool parents are not experts in every single subject all the way up to 12th grade and beyond. And having experts on Outschool who can come and step in and guide, whether it's because of the relationship, the learning dynamic isn't there, or because you don't feel comfortable teaching it, there's a lineup of experts who are there ready to go, which is awesome.
I
Somebody says
agree, I do. So you can just outsource what you can't do.
Yeah, absolutely. My children surpassed me in math a very long time ago. And I was more than happy to find somebody who could fuel their love of math at a level that I could not. Somebody in the comments says, I love that you called it an art because my son loves art. And this may also be able to help them relate to writing in a new way that they can enjoy. That's wonderful. Spelling, somebody commented how important spelling is. And yeah, having experts helps as homeschool parents. All right, Ruth, how about one last tip for the day? What do you have for us?
Don't be too hard on yourself or the student. We tend to be our worst critics, and our energy can transpose to that student. I have a boy, and he's a private student, and we've gone over and over and over it, and he still is making the same mistakes. And at first, the human emotion is frustration. But then, see, my job is to say, okay, it's not working this way. What's the style of learning? And how am I going to do this again in a way that he is going to get it?
Mhm.
So there's no judgment on me and there's no judgment on him. And that's what I did. And I figured out a way that I hadn't tried before, and he did get it. So let's not be too hard on ourselves if we have to do things differently.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. Excellent. Let's see, we have homeschooled for 10 years and Outschool is an important resource for us. Yes, 100%. I don't know how I didn't homeschool for too many years before we found Outschool in 2017, and I can't imagine homeschooling without Outschool now. It is a magical thing. I hope everyone has enjoyed today's conversation. Ruth has probably 100 more tips that she can offer. And so Ruth and I, when we were planning the session, talked about making this a bit of a series. So hopefully we can get her back on in the future and have her offer some more tips for you. But in the description, in the little blurb, the caption above this post is a link to Ruth's profile page. And oh my goodness, I got so wrapped up in our conversation today that normally I share the coupon code earlier in our session and I forgot to. So if you are new to Outschool, you can use the code go live 10 for $10 off your first class. That would be lovely on one of Ruth's classes, but it will work on anybody's classes. So there is, again, a link to her profile there. There's a link to get to the Outschool class catalog in our post here. You've got a coupon code and you are good to go. We monitor these replays for forever, basically. So if you have questions after the fact and you comment with them here, somebody will circle back. If it's a question that involves Ruth, I know where to find her. And I can help get that answer from Ruth as well. But thank you, Ruth, for joining us today. And thank you to everybody for tuning in.
Well, it was a pleasure, and I'd love to come back.
Well, you'll be hearing from me, Ruth.
Okay. Thank you so much. Everyone have a good day.
You too. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.